Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
So we're continuing in the Sundarakand, and we are on chapter 25. So Ravana was seated in his royal assembly, and Hanuman addressed him, and very audaciously he told him, by virtue of religious penances, you have acquired long life and divine prosperity. But you should not spoil that merit by marrying another's wife. It is for your virtue that you are incapable of being destroyed by the gods and the asuras. But Sugriva, the king of the Kapis, is not a god. Yaksha, or a Rakshasa. By race he is a Vanara, and Rama is a human being. In other words, he's warning him that his benediction is not going to save him in this case. Tell me how you will protect yourself from them. Happiness is the reward of virtue. It is seldom possible to enjoy happiness along with the pain of the fruit of vice, nor can former virtue nullify subsequent vice. So this is a very profound discourse about the laws of karma. These are all aphoristic phrases. He says, happiness is the reward of virtue. It is seldom possible to enjoy happiness along with the pain of the fruit of vice, nor can former virtue nullify subsequent vice. He's telling Ravana basically that your good days are over. Right. O king, you have enjoyed sufficient happiness in the past. Now you will have to suffer immensely. Many a Rakshasa has lost life in Janastan. The great hero Vali has fallen on the field of battle. And Rama has contracted friendship with Sugriva. Now just think, what may be good for you? You see, I can alone destroy the city of Lanka with its elephants and horses, but Rama has not given me any direction for it. He would himself destroy the abductor of his wife. Thus he swore before the Vanara and the Balukas. King of the Rakshasas, you are only an ordinary person. Even Indra himself can't be happy by incurring hostility with Ram. She, whom you know to be Janaki, and who is confined in your abode, is the fatal night that forebodes destruction to Lanka. Don't have that noose of death in the form of Sita around your neck. Think rather of your welfare. You should soon find Lanka on flames, fed by the wrath of Rama and consumed by the energy of Sita. Don't bring ruin to your own fault upon your sons. Don't bring ruin for your own fault upon your sons, wives, counselors, and friends. Don't lose immense wealth. I am by race of Vanara. I am an emissary and servant of Ram. What I tell you is true. Listen to my words. The heroic Rama can recreate the world after destroying it. His prowess is like that of Vishnu. None amongst the gods, Asuras, Yakshas, Uragas, Vidyadharas, Gandharvas, Siddhas, Kinnaras, or amongst beasts and birds, can be his match. It will be extremely difficult for you to save your life after doing harm to him, the Lord of the three worlds and the King of the kings. There is none in the three worlds who can challenge him in battle, neither Brahma himself, nor Rudra, the destroyer of Tripura, nor Indra, the king of gods, can stand before his shaft. So here, he's got a very clear, explicit warning, and you could say advice by Hanuman. Ravana's reply. Then Ravana, the king of the Rakshasas, became greatly enraged at these words of Hanuman. His red-hot eyes began to roll, and he at once ordered the executioners to put Hanuman to death. Hanuman was an envoy, and Vibhishan could not approve of his death sentence. But Ravana was beside himself from rage, and finding the death of an envoy almost imminent. So you see, when a person hears good advice, when a bad person hears good advice, it just gets them angry. When a good person hears good advice, it makes them introspective. And we can see that Ravana has all the qualities of a demon. Vibhishan began to reflect what was to be done to pacify his worshipful elder brother. He then said, "O Lord, please stop. Kindly listen to my words. Those kings who can judge about the gravity and levity of acts never intend to put envoys to death. This is against righteousness and custom, so it is not at all proper for you. You are virtuous, wise, and well-versed in politics. If a man like you is swayed by anger, mastery over the Shastras, and all toil in order to attain it are in vain. Be pleased and consider what is right and wrong." Then Ravana, enraged with Vibhishan's words, said, "O hero, there is no sin in putting a sinful person to death. So I shall immediately put him to death." Hearing those unjust words of Ravana, Vibhishan, with sound words, began, "O king, be propitious. Listen to my just and well-meaning words. My lord, an envoy is not to be put to death at the time of discharging his duties. True, he is a formidable enemy, and much mischief has been committed by him. Yet none will approve of his death. Whipping, disfiguring the body, or shaving the head by way of insult, all these punishments have been sanctioned towards the envoy, but we have never heard of the sentence of death being passed upon an envoy. Your goal is righteousness. You can fully judge what is good or bad. So anger is indeed reprehensible in a person like you. Those who are wise never indulge in angry passion, neither in religious discussion nor in social customs, nor in the right interpretation of the Shastras. There is any who can approach you. So he's like massaging his false ego big time. Those who are wise never indulge in angry passion. Again, he's repeating that. Oh, actually, he said that the first time. Okay. O hero, you are in truth the foremost amongst the gods and the asuras. You will reap the fruit by putting the Vanara to death. You should punish him who has sent him hither. You see, this Vanara has been sent by another person. He has come with another's words. He is not independent. Hence, it is not proper to put him to death. O king, if this one is slain, no other sky ranger would come to Lanka. So you should not put him to death. Rather, slay Indra and other gods. That will immensely prove your prowess. Besides, those two human princes are haughty and hostile to you, and if this Vanara is put to death, who will incite them to battle? I don't find anyone else. At this moment, the Rakshasas are impatient to display their valor. Don't disappoint them by putting obstacles to it. They are ever obedient servants and always think of your welfare. They are devoted to you and are intent upon your well-being. Born of high families, they are the foremost of the warriors. Surely, having those fiery heroes on your side, the glory of victory will be yours. So let a section of the force march this day under your orders and bring those foolish princes here. It is desirable on all hands to show your valor to your enemy. Thereupon the Lord of the Rakshasas, the potent enemy of the celestials, accepted the excellent words of his younger brother. So in other words, Vibhishan is glorifying Ravana and trying to convince him not to kill Hanuman, and saying, send your army and let them fetch Ram and Lakshman, let them imprison Ram and Lakshman and bring him here, and then you can deal with them. It's more appropriate for you to kill them than to kill this messenger. Chapter 36, Lanka in flames. Hearing those well-meaning words of Vibhishan, Ravana said, O hero, you have said what is right. It is improper to kill an envoy, but it has become expedient to punish him somehow. You see, the tail is dear to the Vanaras, and it is their ornament. So burn it soon. When he will return with the burnt tail, his friends and acquaintances will find him disfigured and crestfallen. Thus, awarding this sentence to Hanuman, addressing the Rakshasas, Ravana said, soon set fire to the tail of this Vanara. When his tail would be in flames, carry him on shoulders all over the city. Thereupon, at the command of Ravana, the angry Rakshasas began to wrap his tail with torn cotton fabrics. In the meantime, Hanuman began to be dilated. As fire grows in volume, fed by dried woods of forest, the Rakshasas then sprinkled oil over his tail and set fire to it. Hanuman grew angry and began to strike the Rakshasas with his flaming tail. Then Rakshasas began to bind him. Then all the Rakshasas, old, young, male, and female, became exceeding glad at that sight. Then Hanuman thought, though I am in bondage now, yet the Rakshasas won't be able to stand my might. I shall tear off this bondage and kill all of them. They have bound me at the command of the wicked Ravana, but they could not deal with me adequately for the wrong I have done for the benefit of Rama. To tell the truth, I can alone destroy all the Rakshasas, but Rama will do it himself. So I should suffer this bondage for some time. Now let the Rakshasas range Lanka with me. At night I could not see inaccessible places. I shall see them in course of this. Let the Rakshasas bind me. I am suffering, no doubt, from the burning of my tail, but my mind is not anyway overcome. Then the Rakshasas, in great delight, took Hanuman in their custody and proclaimed about the punishment by blowing conch shells and trumpets. Hanuman carried on their backs, saw with delight variegated cars. You can imagine how big the Rakshasas are. Hanuman is gigantic, and they're carrying him. Yeah. Hanuman carried on their backs, saw with delight variegated cars, enclosed courtyards, well-laid terraces, streets thronged with edifices, crossings, byways, and the interiors of dwellings. The Rakshasas proclaimed him as a spy all along the highways and public roads. In the meantime, the ugly-looking Rakshasas went to Janaki and said, the Rakshasas have set fire to the tail of the red-faced Vanara, with whom you were talking, and he is being dragged along through different streets. Thereupon Janaki grew extremely sad at this unpleasant news, and praying with devotedness to the fire that burnt close to her, she said, if I have ever served my husband, if I am chaste, if I have any religious merit, if I have been the devoted wife of one alone, then prove yourself cool to Hanuman. So this is the ability of a chaste woman to perform mystical feats. So chastity does empower a person, especially women, and men also. Look at the four Kumaras; they've always been chaste, and they have total recall. They hear something once, they can remember it the rest of their life. So, thereupon that fire began to burn in flames, bending towards the right, and the fire burning in Hanuman's tail grew soothing and cool as snow. So, Janaki's blessing. Then, huh?
Doesn't this one also show the power of Ram's name, Prabhu? She's just invoking the name of Ram, and the demigod of fire becomes quite contrary to his original value. He doesn't burn, he becomes cool. She says, Yadhyastipati Susprusha. She gives a huge, this one, if this is happening, this is going to happen. So then ultimately she will say, Shita Bhavata Ranmata. The first line is, Yadhyastipati Susprusha, Yadhyasti Charitam Tapa.
She's always served her husband.
Yeah.
She's chaste.
Yeah, and then she also says if Sugriva is going to come over and Sugriva and his boss are going to come, she gives like 7 or 8 different clauses. And all of them will ultimately say that Ram is the supreme. So she's invoking the name of Ram. So does this one specify the power of a chaste woman or the power of the name of Ram?
Well, what I just read is the power of a chaste woman.
Okay. But Agni does that for Lord Ram, right? Just because Ram's name was invoked by a true devotee, he goes contrary to his original dharma.
Well, let's continue to read. Let's see what it says. So the fire burning in Hanuman's tail grew soothing and cool as snow because of Sita's prayer. Then Hanuman mused, fire is burning in my tail, but why does it not burn my body? Its flame is intensely glowing, yet why do I not feel any pain? Why does contact of the fire at the end of my tail feel cool as snow? I can easily discern that it is due to Rama's prowess. It is due to his prowess that I found the Mainaka in the midst of the sea when I crossed it. If the sea and the hill Mainaka could have behaved like that for Rama, there is no wonder that fire will appear cool as snow. However, it is for Janaki's affection, Rama's valor, and for fire's friendship with my father that he is not burning me. So it doesn't refer to Rama's name, it says Rama's prowess, Rama's power.
But Rama's power is not different than Rama.
Yeah, but in its translation it refers to Rama's power. It doesn't say Rama's name specifically. Hanuman again thought, what low fellows like Rakshasas to bind one like me at last. If I have any prowess or awe, I should teach them a proper lesson. Thinking thus, the great hero snapped his bonds, and with one mighty spring got upon the high gate, lofty as a cliff. There was no crowd of the Rakshasas at that place. Getting there, he contracted his body within a moment, and the remaining of his bonds spontaneously slipped from him. He then grew tall, eyeing and casting his glance around hither and thither and round. He saw a huge bolt standing against the gate. Taking that iron bolt in his hand, he destroyed the sentries there. His tail was blazing at that time, and in his hand he destroyed the sentry. His tail was blazing at that time, and he looked like the glaring sun, quite incapable of being gazed at, and he repeatedly cast his looks upon Lanka. Hanuman then glowed with energy and thought, what remains to be done? How shall I punish the Rakshasas more? I have broken the pleasure garden, destroyed the Rakshasa heroes, and also part of the army. Now destruction of the forts remains, and when it is done, my labors will be crowned with success. By further slight efforts, it will be accomplished. Fire is burning on my tail, and I shall propitiate it by burning the houses. Well, so he is not feeling the burning, although it's burning. And he decides to punish the Rakshasas some more, and create more havoc. And he's received his blessing from Sita. So this whole thing is like supernatural, what's happening now. Thereupon the mighty Vanara, with his burning tail, resembling a cloud with lightning, began to range with undaunted heart from house to house, from palace to palace, from garden to garden. Then the hero, springing with the velocity of wind, set fire to the house of Prahasta. At a short distance from it was Mahaprasa's dwelling, and he jumped over it. The house began to burn as if with the doomsday fire. Then Hanuman, darting up, set fire to the dwellings of Vairadanstra, Sukha, Sarana, Indrajit, Jambu, Mali, Ras, Miketu, Surya, Shatru, Ro, Skarma, Danstra, Ramasha, Yodam, Mata, Dwaja, Driva, Vidyut Jiva, Gora, Hastimukha, Karala, Vishala, Shonitaksha, Kumbhakarna, Makaraksha, Narantaka, Kumbha, Nikumbha, Yagyashatru, and Brahmashatru. In succession, he burnt all the houses, leaving that of Vibhishan alone. The mansions of those Rakshasas were reared with great cost, and they were reduced to ashes with their immense wealth. Gradually, Hanuman approached the royal palace. It was high as the Mandara hill and adorned with jewels, and Hanuman, having set fire to it by his flaming tail, began to roar like a cloud that might rise on the day of dissolution. And that fire, being fed by the wind, began to spread on all sides, and at that time it seemed as if doomsday fire was going to reduce everything to ashes. Then big mansions wrought with pearls and furnished with golden nets, began to crumble down, as if the siddhas were falling down from the heaven at the expiry of their religious reward. Moans and shrieks rose from all sides, and the Rakshasas gave up in despair all attempts to save their wealth and properties and ran out of their dwellings. It seemed as if Agni, or the god of fire, came in the guise of a Vanara. Women with sucking babies on their breasts tumbled down into flame with tearful eyes. Some were surrounded on all sides by the tongues of fire, and hairs of some were disheveled, and those fair damsels, when they fell, looked like bright lightning darting from the sky. Hanuman saw various kinds of metals mixed up with diamonds, pearls, corals, and lapis, streaming down like liquids by the heat of that fire. As fire is never satiated by burning dry logs and grass, so Hanuman was not at all satisfied by the destruction of the Rakshasas, and Hanuman looked like God Rudra burning down Tripura. The flame of that terrific fire ascended to the summit of Trikuta mountain, on which Lanka did rest. Its flames were sootless and kissed the sky. It covered Lanka with the glare of million suns and rent the earth with thundering sounds. The tongues of flame were exceedingly red like the kinsuka blossoms, and clouds of smoke rising out of extinguished flame resembled blue in hue. The Rakshasas were greatly frightened by this and began to talk among themselves. Either he is the thunderbolt-armed Indra, or Yama, or Varuna, or the wind god, or the fire generated by the third eye of Rudra, or Surya, sun, and Chandra, moon, or Kubera. This is no Vanara, but death himself. Or this Rakshasa destroying fire is Brahma himself, the great sire of all, and the disposer of all destinies. Or is this Vishnu's energy, incomprehensible, unutterable, infinite, and assumed this form by virtue of Maya? Seeing the city thus consumed with its residents, houses, horses, cars, beasts, birds, and trees, the Rakshasas began to lament, O father, O son, O love, O friend, O my love, O my husband, alas, all virtue has come to an end. Thus lamenting, the Rakshasas created a great row, and Lanka, surrounded by flames, and her heroes fallen, looked like the world burning with the fire of Brahma, or like an object blighted by the imprecation of a curse. Then Hanuman saw the panic-stricken Rakshasas, and after burning Lanka, he thought of Rama. Then the gods praised Hanuman, and the saints, Gandharvas, and the Vidyadharas were mightily pleased with his deeds. Hanuman took his seat on the roof of a palace. He then glowed like the sun. After accomplishing his object, he extinguished the fire of his tail with the waters of the sea. Wow. Chapter 37, Hanuman's anxiety. After the burning of Lanka, Hanuman began to reflect and grew highly apprehensive and thought, what an iniquitous act I have committed by burning down Lanka. Blessed are those high-souled people who can control their angry passions by dint of their good sense, like fire quenched by water. What evil cannot be affected by anger? In other words, he's reflecting on the destructive nature of anger. An angry person can even kill the worshipful and vilify the pious with rude expressions. The angry cannot decide what to speak and what not to speak. There is no sin that cannot be committed by them. He is a real man who can cast off his anger as the snakes cast off their sloughs, or their skin. Oh, shame to me! I am vicious, shameless, and the perpetrator of a great crime and the destroyer of my master. Without thinking of Janaki, I have burnt down Lanka. If the whole Lanka has been burnt down, certainly Janaki has been consumed with it. Alas, I have unwittingly spoiled my master's cause. I have defeated his object. By burning down Lanka, I have not saved Janaki. The burning of Lanka is no doubt trifling, but in my anger I have lost my great object. Forsooth, Janaki has been consumed by fire, for I do not find any spot in the whole city that has not been devastated by fire. Due to my stupidity, I have defeated my master's object. Now I shall enter either into flames or into the sea full of sharks and crocodiles, and I shall offer my body to them. I have spoilt the whole thing. With what face shall I now appear before Sugriva, Rama, and Lakshmana? It is notorious in the three worlds that a Vanara is fickle and restless, and I have betrayed my national character through anger. So I reject activity born of impetuous passion, which is the cause of all rashness and incompetency. Alas, though capable, yet I did not protect Sita. I have, through my culpable passion, furnished an illustration of the reckless monkey nature which is notorious over the three worlds. On Sita's destruction, both Rama and Lakshman will cease to live, and on their death, Sugriva will die with his friends. And on receiving these news, how will Bharat, devoted to his brother, Shatrughna, live? Thus, the Ikshvaku race being extinct, all people will be overwhelmed with grief. I have therefore, due to my bad luck, lost all virtue, and being under the baneful influence of passion, have become the cause of the destruction of good many lives. As he was musing thus, he thought of the auspicious omens which he had witnessed since, and thus said within, or it may be that the lady of graceful limbs has been preserved by her own virtuous energy, for fire does not burn limbs. For fire will not touch the spouse of that virtuous one of immeasurable energy and strength, who is further protected by her own pious acts. The bearer of sacrificial offerings has not burnt me, simply owing to Rama's prowess and the virtue of Janaki. So again, he mentions Rama's power. He doesn't mention the name. That doesn't mean he's translated it correctly, but that's the way he's translating. Okay, so but why should he who is worshipful deity unto Bharata and other princes, and who is the consort of Rama after his own mind, be destroyed at all? Indestructible fire can reduce everything into ashes, but it has not burnt my tail. Then why should Sita be consumed? Then Hanuman, with wonder and awe, thought of seeing the Mainka in the midst of the sea, and he mused that Sita, by her devotion, truthfulness, and righteousness, could even burn fire, but fire could not burn her. Hanuman was thus thinking about Janaki's virtue. In the meantime, he heard the birds thus to converse. What an awful thing has been committed by the conflagration of the houses of the Rakshasas. The old and the young and women are crying. They have created they are in sorrow in their panic and are anxious and restless. It seems the splendor of Lanka has forsaken the city. But what a wonder, the city has been burnt, but Janaki has escaped quite unscathed. Hearing these words, sweet as nectar, Hanuman was mightily pleased, and from the auspicious omens he saw, and what he had heard from the saints, Hanuman concluded that undoubtedly Janaki was alive. Thus thinking, he again proceeded towards the Sinsapa tree. So he's going back again.
He was afraid that burnt Sita as well.
Mm.
So he has to go back and make sure that Sita is okay.
Right. Okay. Good.
He already did that the first time. The first time he meets Sita, the first time he meets Sita, he collects the Chudamani from her. And then Sita will ask him to stay back for one more evening. That's when he does the Ashok Vatika episode. And then he goes back to Sita. Now Sita will reiterate the stories.
Thereafter, Hanuman, on arriving at the Sansapa tree, found Janaki seated under the tree. Then, greeting her respectfully, he said, "O worshipful lady, it is due to my good luck that I find you quite safe." Then Janaki repeatedly looked at him, and finding him about to go away, affectionately said, "My child, if you wish, you may stop here just for a day. After taking rest in some secret place, you may start on the next day. Even your sight beguiles me of my sorrow for the time being. You are going now, surely to come back, but in the meantime my life may come to an end. My mind is exceedingly sad, and I am suffering untold misery, and your absence will grieve me more. O hero, I have grave doubts about one thing. The heroic Sugriva has no doubt vast Vanara and Baluka hosts to help, but how will he cross the sea with his army, along with Rama and Lakshmana? Excepting you, Garuda and the wind, I do not find anybody capable of doing this. You are skilled in everything, but how will this difficult task be accomplished? All praise to your valor. You can yourself easily accomplish the deed, but it will be worthy of his heroism. If Rama himself comes and rescues me, what shall I say more, my child? Encourage him about it." Then Hanuman, hearing this reasonable speech of Janaki, said, "O worshipful lady, that Lord and foremost of Vanara, Sugriva, gifted with strength, is determined on your behalf. And that master of Vanara, Sugriva, O Vaidehi, surrounded by thousands and millions of Vanaras, shall speedily come here for the purpose, and those best of men, those heroes, Rama and Lakshmana, coming together, shall afflict Lanka with their arrows. And slaughtering the Rakshasas by his own valor, Raghu's son, O exceedingly fair one, will take you back to his palace. O gentle damsel, do you console yourself expecting that hour? Soon you will see Ravana slain in battle by Rama, on the lord of Rakshasas being slain along with his sons, counselors, and friends. You will meet Rama as Rohini met the moon. Soon shall Kakutsa come accompanied by the foremost of Vanaras, who conquering Ravana in conflict shall remove your grief." Having thus consoled Videha's daughter, Hanuman, son of the wind god, setting his heart upon departure, saluted Vaidehi, and having soothed Vaidehi and having rendered the city disconsolate, displaying his surpassing strength and having baffled Ravana, exhibiting his terrific might, and saluting Vaidehi, Hanuman became bent upon returning across the sea. Then that repressor of foes, the powerful Vanara, eager to see his master, ascended Arista, the foremost of mountain the foremost of mountains, as if covered with a sheet, consisting of blue woods of tall padmakas and clouds lying in the inner space between the peaks, discovered by the gay light of the sun, abounding with minerals scattered about, serving for its eyes, seemed which to be reciting aloud, in consequence of the solemn sound of waters, to be caroling through its many fountains, and to stay with uplifted arms by means of the Devadarus, appearing to be weeping distractedly on account of cascades sounding all around, and seemed also to be trembling in the consequence of verdant autumnal woods waving, and to be piping on the account of the kichakas, vocal through the breeze, noisy with poisonous serpents, appearing to be buried in contemplation on account of caverns covered with snow, and looking solemn in consequence, seeming to yawn in the sky with peaks towering heavenwards, graced with marble caves, surrounded with sals, palms, tamalas, kanas, and bamboos, adorned with spreading and flowing underwoods, abounding the various beasts, and dissected with mineral streams, containing numerous hills thronged with crags, frequented by maharshis and yakshas and gandharvas and kinnaras, and serpents, impassable in consequence of plants and trees with caves harboring lions, filled with tigers and other ferocious beasts, and furnished with trees having tasted fruits and roots, ascending their mountains, and on the lovely levels of the mountains, the crags crushed with sounds under the tread of the one burning to behold Rama and wrought up with excess of joy, were scattered all around. Ascending that lofty hill, Hanuman greatly dilated his body to cross from the southern to northern shores of the sea. Well, that was a long sentence. Okay, so Hanuman's flying through the air, or getting ready to fly through the air. Chapter 39. After getting to the top of the mountain, the son of the wind god cast his look upon the dreadful main inhabited by terrible snakes. Then the hill, being sore pressed by the foremost of the Vanaras, began to groan in pain, and with various creatures on it, began to sink beneath the earth. Its peaks were tottering, and trees began to topple down. Borne down by his violence, the flowery trees fell on the ground as if destroyed by Indra's thunderbolt, and dreadful yells of lions pierced the sky. The nymphs, with their apparel slipping from them and jewelry in disorder, at once rose from the hill into the sky. Dreadful snakes of virulent poison and flaming tongues and expanded hoods began to roll in the dust. The Gandharvas, the Yakshas, and the Vidyadharas left the hill in pain, took shelter in the sky, and the hill, 10 yojanas long and 30 in height, became one with the hill, and Hanuman, being desirous of crossing the billowy ocean in great speed, rose to the sky. The firmament looked like the deep sea, where the Gandharvas and the Rakshasas were like blooming lotuses, the moon like lily, Lishya, and Travana like the swans, the clouds like its oceans, the star Punarvasu like the fish, Boma like the crocodile, Airavata like its island, the breeze like its billows, and stars its karandavas, and the moonlight like gentle transplant water. Hanuman easily crossed the sea like welkin by his speed. Easily crossed the sea by his speed. He seemed to swallow the planets and break the moon into pieces. He drew to him clouds of different hues by his velocity, and at times he became concealed behind the clouds, and at times came out of them. He resounded all quarters by his deep roars and reached the middle of the sea on his way. He simply touched the Mainaka hill and then shot like an arrow discharged from the bow. From a distance he beheld the mountain on the beach. In great delight he set up a roar and made his way quickly to the shore. He became delighted at the prospect of meeting his friends and brandished his tail in joy. His roar seemed to rend the sky with its dew and the moon. At that time the Vanaras were extremely waiting for Hanuman on the northern shores, and from a distance they heard his roars like the rumbling of the clouds and felt the speed of his course. As soon as they heard that noise, they all became anxious for his sight. In the meantime, Jambavan, addressing the Vanaras, cheerfully said, "Surely Hanuman has been crowned with success, or such a noise would not have been heard." Jai. Then the Vanaras jumped in joy, and many of them, in order to behold Hanuman move from one peak to another, from one branch of the tree to another branch. Some of them ascended on the treetops and began to wave pieces of white cloth in delight. Here Hanuman was advancing like the roaring wind. The Vanaras joined their palms at his sight, and Hanuman with great noise fell upon the peak like a mountain clipped of its wings. The Vanaras were extremely glad at his sight, and they surrounded him immediately. Everyone's face was bright with joy. Many of them roared in delight. They began to chatter greatly. Some of them broke down branches of the trees to prepare a seat. The Vanaras were extremely glad at his sight, and they surrounded him immediately. Everyone's face was bright with joy. Many of them roared in delight. They began to chatter greatly. Some of them broke down branches of the trees to prepare a seat. Yep. Then Hanuman bowed down to Jambavan and other superiors and to Prince Angada. They welcomed him and gazed upon him with cheerful heart. Then Hanuman briefly narrated information about Janaki, and then taking Angada's hand, he sat down in a beautiful spot in the wood and valley of the Mahendra hill, and being questioned, he gave a brief account of his deeds. O Vanaras, I have seen the worshipful Janaki in the Ashoka forest. She is surrounded by dreadful Rakshasas. She is extremely weak and lean on account of fasting. She wears a single braid of hair and has become highly anxious for the sight of Rama. The Vanaras, hearing these nectar-like sweet words, became exceedingly glad. Some chattered and some roared in delight. Some brandished their tails, some shook their long tails, and most of them jumped from the hill and touched Hanuman in joy. Then Angada said, O hero, I do not find anybody equal to you in valor or bravery. Since you have succeeded in coming back after crossing the vast sea to speak the truth, you are the savior of our lives. Now, being successful, with your help we shall appear before Rama. Wonderful is thy devotion to your master, and wonderful is your patience. Owing to good luck, you have gathered the whereabouts of Janaki, and due to good luck, Rama will be absolved from the pangs of Sita's separation. Then the Vanaras, in delightful heart, surrounded Prince Angada, Hanuman, and Jambavan, and sat on a spacious tableland in order to hear everything in detail with joined palms. Sitaram, Lakshmana, Hanuman, Ki Jai, Shri Radha Neela Madhavi Ki Jai. So we'll stop here, and we will finish tomorrow.
Tomorrow is Kids Kirtan night.
Oh yeah, so we'll finish Monday. Huh? What's that? Yeah, okay. We'll finish Monday. Haribol.
I think it might take till Tuesday, Prabhu, because after this we need to read the episode of the monkeys getting all inebriated on honey in Madhuban. Madhuban is Sugriva's uncle's garden. They have wonderful honey, and they would take Sugriva's uncle outside and they just tear the whole son apart. They are so happy that they found Sita, and they would drink a whole lot of honey, and it's so jubilant. And then they would come and complain to Sugriva, and Sugriva would say, "This